The monitor in room 313 kept beeping. Not fast, not slow, just steady. Too steady. Nurse Aisha had checked that room 3 times already, and every time it was empty. The patient had died earlier that evening. The body had been moved. The bed was stripped, yet the machine still pulsed. 1 perfect heartbeat every 3 seconds. She stood at the doorway, clutching the chart against her chest. The corridor lights buzzed faintly overhead, flickering like tired eyes. A janitor's mop bucket squeaked at the far end. Must be a glitch, she whispered, but her voice came out dry like static. She stepped closer. The air grew cold around the empty bed. The green line blinked again. Beep. She froze. The monitor showed a pulse, oxygen level, and blood pressure, all normal. For someone who wasn't there. Behind her, she heard the faint sound of breathing. She turned. The corridor was empty. Then the monitor let out one long, flat tone. Beep! And in that moment, the room lights went out. Aisha had worked night shifts for 6 years at St. Mary's General, a mid-sized hospital on the city's edge. She'd seen death before, too many times, but that night felt different, heavier, quieter. The patient from room 313, Mr. Kaleem, had been a quiet old man. Liver failure, no family. He'd died around 8:40 p.m., peacefully, according to the attending doctor. By 9:30, his body was gone. By 10, his name tag had been removed from the door, and by 10:20, the monitor started again. Aisha tried to convince herself it was a loose wire or power feedback. But when she unplugged the machine, it still flickered for a few seconds, like something refused to let go. She called the tech on duty. "Can you check room 313? The monitors—" "I already did," he interrupted. "It's disconnected. Probably power surge, but it's showing vitals," she said quietly, a pause. Then, "Maybe you're tired, Aisha. Take 5. She wanted to argue, but fatigue did claw at her. Night shifts blurred time, coffee, silence, and the hum of machines. At 11:10, she went to the staff room. Dim light, faint smell of antiseptic. Nurse Sadia was making tea. "You okay?" "You look pale," Sadia said. Aisha hesitated. "Have you ever had a patient?" "Come back." Sadia frowned. "Come back? Like, what do you mean?" "After death," Aisha whispered. Sadia's face hardened. "Don't joke like that here." But Aisha wasn't joking. The sound, the heartbeat, it felt alive. When she returned to 313 at midnight, the monitor was off. Relief washed over her, until she noticed something else. The bed sheets were creased, as if someone had been lying there. The next 2 nights brought strange patterns, each shift. Around midnight, the vitals monitor in 313 would start up again, briefly showing a pulse, different values every time. Once, it even printed a short ECG strip, a faint heartbeat pattern. The tech said it was impossible. The old nurse on the floor muttered something about lingering warmth and patients who don't know they're gone. Aisha tried to rationalize it. Static electricity, faulty cables, electrical feedback. But she couldn't ignore the other detail. The temperature in 313 was always colder, 5 degrees lower than the rest of the floor. And sometimes, she'd smell alcohol swabs and aftershave. Exactly the same scent Mr. Kaleem wore. One night, the door to 313 swung open on its own. Aisha saw movement, a shadow leaning over the bed, like a figure adjusting the sheets. "Hello?" she called. No reply. When she entered, the shadow was gone. But the pillow was indented, and the call light above the bed blinked red. Someone, or something, had pressed it. She reported it. The charge nurse logged the incident as equipment malfunction. But the next morning, security footage from the corridor showed the door opening and closing by itself. Aisha couldn't sleep that day. Her mind replayed the flat tone of the monitor, the shadow, the smell. Logic told her to let it go, but fear whispered, "What if he's still here?" The final night came during a thunderstorm. Rain hammered the glass. The lights flickered again. At 12:03 a.m., the code alarm triggered in room 3113. Aisha sprinted there, heart pounding. Inside, the monitor was screaming. Vitals racing, pulse 140. The bed was empty. The cables hung loose, and yet the machine kept reading. She whispered, "Mr. Kaleem?" Her breath fogged the air. Then the ECG paper began printing rapidly. Long sheets spitting out, curling onto the floor. She lifted one. It read a single word, formed out of the shaky heartline pattern. "Stay." inside, and for a split second she saw a reflection in the dark window, an old man's face beside hers. She screamed. The monitor exploded into static, sparks flying. Other nurses rushed in moments later. The room was dark again, the power tripped. But on the wall, above the bed, written in condensation, were two faint letters, K and A, the start of Kaleem. They closed room 313 for maintenance. Official report, electrical fault, short circuit. But Aisha knew what she saw and what she felt. 2 weeks later, she transferred to the day shift. Every time she walked past that corridor, she avoided looking toward 313. One morning, a new nurse joined. Aisha warned her casually, "Don't use that room if you can help it. The monitors, temperamental." The nurse laughed. "It's fine, they fixed it. I had a patient there last night." Aisha froze. "Last night?" "Yeah," the new nurse smiled. "Nice old man," said his name was Kaleem. The intercom crackled at 2:17 a.m. Nurse's station, ICU Wing B. A voice whispered. Nurse Rania paused mid-step. The floor was empty, the hall lights humming. She picked up the receiver. "ICU B, go ahead," she said softly. No response. Only faint static and breathing, slow, wet, close. She frowned, pressing the button again. "Who is this?" The breathing stopped. Then came 3 words, broken, gasping. "He's not dead." The line went dead. She glanced toward the ICU wing through the glass corridor. Every room was dark except bed 4, where the monitor glowed faintly green. That patient, Mr. Sadiq, had died half an hour ago. The body was still there. Rania had grown used to night shifts, the quiet hours between 1 and 4, when the hospital seemed to float between worlds. She'd always joked with colleagues, "This place is more alive at night than in the day." But tonight, that line felt like a curse. Mr. Sadiq was a difficult case. A middle-aged man, massive stroke, no brain activity for days. When he passed at 1:42 a.m., Rania had felt relief for him. Peace at last. The paperwork was done. The machines disconnected. The lights dimmed. Then the intercom called. She told herself it must be another nurse pranking her. But the voice, that whisper, had rasped like it came from inside the ICU room itself. Rania walked toward the ICU glass doors, the rubber soles of her shoes echoing faintly. Bed 4's curtain was half open. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and something metallic, like blood left too long in the air. The monitor light blinked. A soft beep sounded. "Impossible," she muttered. She leaned close to the monitor. The pulse reading 46 BPM. She froze. The ECG cable wasn't even attached. Then the intercom crackled again from the wall speaker, faint, like someone breathing through static. Still, "Here!" By 3 a.m., Rania was sitting at the nurse's desk, staring at the monitor feed. Bed 4, the dead man's bed, was showing small fluctuations. She double-checked the security footage. Nothing unusual. The body was still covered by a white sheet. Still, every few minutes, the monitor flickered to life. At 3:17, another nurse, Hira, joined her. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said. Rania whispered. "The intercom called me." From inside 4, Hira frowned. "You sure? That system's one way. You can't call out from patient rooms." "Exactly," Rania said. They both stared at the panel. Silence. Then, click, the speaker hissed again. "Cold. So cold." Hira stepped back. "What the hell? Maybe a cross wire," Rania said quickly, though her voice trembled. Maybe ICUA's line bled into ours. But when she checked the log, no other wing had used the intercom since midnight. The 2 nurses decided to check the ICU together. They entered the room quietly. Nothing. The sheeted body lay still. Hira reached for the intercom switch on the wall. Maybe it shorted. When she flipped it, both women froze. Because from the speaker above came the flat tone of a heart monitor, loud and real, even though none were connected. The sound faded after a few seconds, leaving only the hum of the fluorescent lights. Then the phone at the nurse's station rang. Hira ran to answer. Rania stayed in the doorway. After a pause, Hira's voice cracked. "Rania, it's bed 4. Rania's stomach twisted. "What about it?" They just got a call. From inside, the 2 nurses contacted the on-call technician. He arrived half asleep, rolling his eyes. "You're saying the dead man made a phone call?" "Just check it," Rania said flatly. He checked the room's landline. No external connection, no missed calls. "Probably signal interference," he muttered. Then the intercom clicked again. This time, all 4 ICU room lights turned on at once, blinding white. Through the glass, the body on bed 4 sat up. Rania screamed, stumbling back. The tech rushed in and froze. The figure sat upright under the white sheet, breathing heavily, the sound rasping through the speaker system. "Get a doctor," Hira yelled. Rania stepped closer, trembling. She reached for the sheet and stopped. The face beneath wasn't Mr. Sadiq. It was pale, featureless, like wax melting. And then the intercom whispered one last time, "Don't answer the next call." The lights flickered out. When they came back, the bed was empty. Security arrived minutes later. They searched every room, every hallway. Nothing. Only the intercom continued to hiss softly, as if breathing on its own. The hospital recorded it as a communication malfunction. The footage showed only flickering lights. No figure, no movement, but the phone records confirmed one impossible detail. At 3:41 a.m., the ICU phone did receive a call. It was traced to its own internal extension, room 4. Mr. Sadiq's body was found 2 floors down later that morning. In the old storage ward, still under the same sheet. No one could explain how it got there. Rania took 2 weeks off work after that night. When she returned, she avoided the ICU, but on her second shift back, around 2:15 a.m., the intercom buzzed softly again. She froze, hand hovering over the receiver. Then a familiar whisper slid through the static. "You answered." Every nurse knew the rule in the pediatric ward: never close both sides of the curtain at night, but Nurse Mina had forgotten. It was 3:09 a.m. when she noticed it, the far curtain by bed 7, fully drawn, hiding the little space from view. The child in that bed, a 6-year-old named Hassan, had died earlier that day. Still, the curtain swayed gently, as if someone inside was breathing. Mina hesitated at the doorway. The rest of the ward was silent, only the soft hum of oxygen machines and faint lullaby music from the playroom speakers. The curtain moved again. "Mina." Someone whispered from behind it. Her throat went dry. "Who's there?" The voice came again, weak but familiar. The same tone Hassan used when asking for water. "Nurse, I can't sleep." She felt her knees weaken. The body had been taken to the morgue 5 hours ago. Still, the curtain trembled slow and steady, like a heartbeat in cloth. Mina had been working at St. Clair's Children's Hospital for just over 2 years. She'd seen sickness, loss, and grief, but never anything she couldn't explain. The night Hassan passed was heavy. The boy had leukemia, soft-spoken, always smiling, even when in pain. He had drawn her a picture earlier that week, a son and a small nurse standing beside it, smiling. He died at sunset. By 10 p.m., Mina had cleaned the room, folded the sheets, and covered the window. Bed 7 stood empty until 3:09 a.m. She approached the curtain slowly, clipboard trembling in her hand. "Hassan." No response. Her mind searched for logic. Maybe the air conditioning vent caused it to move, or another child was awake. But when she peeked beneath the curtain, she saw 2 small feet standing on the floor, pale, bare, facing the bed. She gasped and stepped back. The curtain went still. The air turned heavy, cold, thick with the faint scent of disinfectant and fruit syrup, the kind used for kids, medication. Then she heard a soft laugh. She ripped the curtain open. No one was there, but the bed, the one she had stripped bare, was now tucked neatly, pillow fluffed, as if waiting for a patient. Mina couldn't shake the unease. She checked the security cameras. Nothing unusual. The night staff shrugged off her story, calling it grief echo. Some nurses believed children's spirits lingered longer, not knowing they'd gone. At 4 a.m., she went back to tidy up. The curtain was half closed again. She decided to leave it that way as she turned to go. A soft rattle came from the IV stand, the one assigned to bed 7. The empty saline bag was moving gently, like someone had brushed past it. Her radio crackled. "Ward C, you good, Mina?" It was the charge nurse, Farzana. Yeah, fine, Mina lied. Just finishing up, a pause. Then Farzana added, Weird, I just got a vitals ping from your floor. Bed 7, right? Mina froze. Impossible. I know. Just thought I'd tell you. Maybe a glitch. She hung up and turned toward the monitor panel. The small green light for bed 7 flickered faintly. Pulse 92, O2 96%. Hassan, she whispered. And then from behind her, the same small voice said, That's me. Mina spun around. No one. But the child's drawing she'd kept pinned to the notice board, the one with the smiling sun, was gone. In its place was a new drawing, made with shaky crayon lines. It showed a hospital bed, curtains closed, and a nurse standing outside crying. The following night, Mina requested reassignment to the neonatal floor. But the supervisor denied it. Short staff. Emergency shift. By 2 a.m., the ward was dim. Only one other nurse nearby. When she walked past bed 7, her body stiffened. The curtain was closed again. She whispered, Hassan, please. Rest. The curtain rustled. She gripped the edge and yanked it open. Nothing but an empty bed. Then the overhead speaker in the hallway played a faint sound. A lullaby. The same one Hassan's mother used to hum. Her walkie buzzed again. Farzana's voice. Mina, who's with you in C ward? Security sees someone on camera. Mina looked up at the CCTV dome. There's no one here. Static burst in her earpiece. Then Farzana's voice strained. Mina, the boy standing right behind you. She turned and froze. A small shadow stood near the curtain. Bare feet, head tilted slightly, eyes hollow but soft. Can I stay here tonight? He whispered. Mina's eyes filled. You need to rest now, Hassan. I'm cold. She reached out slowly, trembling. It's okay. I'll turn the blanket down. Her hand touched nothing, just air, but the blanket folded by itself. Then the monitor beeped again, pulse steady, strong. A soft sigh filled the room, and then silence. By dawn, the monitor flatlined again, one long, gentle tone. Mina stood by the window, the first light of morning touching her face. On the bed, where no patient had lain for 2 days, sat a small paper drawing, the same one Hassan made. The smiling sun, the nurse beside it, at the bottom, written in faint blue crayon. Thank you for staying. The curtain didn't move again after that, but sometimes, late at night, nurses passing by bed 7 swear they hear a child humming softly, and the faint rustle of a curtain opening just enough to let the light in. The elevator in Wing D hadn't worked in years, at least that's what everyone said. Nurse Sadia never used it. She took the stairs, even during 2 a.m. medication rounds. But that night, as she walked past the old shaft, she heard the ding, soft, metallic, out of place. The light above the elevator door flickered. B2, basement level. Her heart thudded. That floor had been sealed after a fire 8 years ago. Another ding, then the doors creaked open. Inside, the elevator was dark except for a faint yellow light that flickered like a dying candle. She should have called security. She should have walked away. But a sound drifted up from inside, a child crying, soft, muffled. Sadia's fingers tightened around her clipboard. Hello? The crying stopped. Then a whisper echoed up from the darkness. It's too hot down here. Sadia was a steady nurse, not one for ghost stories or superstitions. St. Philip's Hospital was old. Yes, but it was her second home. The night shift felt peaceful to her. Half-lit hallways, the hum of fluorescent lights, and the slow rhythm of machines breathing for their patients. Until that night. It was 2:13 a.m. when she heard the elevator move. It shouldn't have been possible. The circuit had been cut. The basement sealed. She stood in front of the open doors, trying to make sense of the faint burning smell drifting out. Not fire exactly, but something older. Like smoke trapped in metal, she leaned forward slightly. Is someone there? A faint shuffle echoed from the dark shaft. Then a cough. Her instincts told her to leave. But training told her, check first, call later. She stepped closer. The temperature dropped. Her breath fogged in front of her. The elevator doors shuddered as if someone pressed the close button from inside. Sadia jumped back, and the doors slammed shut. The old light blinked twice, then glowed B3. There was no B3. She reported it. The security guard shrugged. Probably a wiring glitch. But that didn't explain the sound. Later that night, during her next round, she passed the same elevator again. And it opened for her. This time, it was bright, clean, operating lights, walls polished, floor shining. Inside stood a small girl, maybe 7, hair tied in messy braids, wearing a faded hospital gown. "Sweetheart, are you lost?" Sadia asked softly. The girl looked up, eyes wide. "It's burning." Sadia stepped closer. "What's burning?" The girl pointed upward. "All of it." Then she vanished, like smoke fading through glass. The lights flickered, and the elevator returned to its old rusted state. Sadia stumbled back, heart hammering. She rushed to the control desk, calling maintenance. "There's someone trapped in the old lift," she said breathlessly. The man on the line sounded puzzled. "Ma'am, there's no power to that shaft. It's been sealed for 8 years. You're seeing reflections, nothing more." She didn't sleep that day. That evening, she did some digging. The fire from 8 years ago, it started in the basement pediatric storage unit. The file said 3 children were lost. Cause unknown, electrical fault. At 3 a.m., the elevator dinged again. Sadia approached slowly, flashlight trembling in her hand. The doors opened to reveal a perfectly lit hospital room inside the lift. Beds lined up, IV stands, oxygen tanks, but everything looked wrong. Frozen in time, the same 3 children sat inside, motionless. One of them, the girl with the braids, turned her head slowly toward Sadia. "Can you help us get out?" she asked softly. Sadia's heart pounded. "You're not supposed to be here." The girl tilted her head. "Neither are you." Suddenly, the elevator lights flared red. Smoke poured from the ceiling. The floor shuddered as alarms wailed. Not in the real hallway, but inside the lift. Sadia reached for the door, but it slammed shut. Flames crawled up the mirrored walls. "The children didn't move. They just stared. Make it stop!" she screamed, pounding the door. Then through the static of the intercom, a man's voice, calm, eerie, whispered, "You're reliving our night." The flames surged. Sadia covered her face, and then silence. When she opened her eyes, she was standing in the empty hallway again. The elevator doors were open. The inside was charred black, melted wiring dripping like wax, and on the floor, a single burned hospital bracelet. The name half melted, but one word still clear: Sadia. The next morning, she checked the maintenance logs. No elevator had moved. No alarms had gone off, but the chief engineer called her aside. "Strange thing, Nurse Sadia. We found your ID bracelet inside the old shaft. Melted. You sure you didn't lose it?" Her hands shook. I wasn't inside," he smiled gently. "Then maybe it fell." She didn't tell him the truth. She couldn't. That night she transferred to another wing. But sometimes, when she's on break near the east corridor, she hears the faint ding again. The light flashes B3, and the intercom whispers, faint and childlike, "Going down." Room 313 was never supposed to be assigned again. After the patient in that room died, screaming. According to staff, it was closed for repairs. But hospitals don't like wasting space. So 6 months later, they reopened it. Nurse Hira didn't think much when she got the room on her night shift. She was new, eager, careful, always following protocols. The patient was Mr. Khurshid, 71, recovering from a mild heart attack. Nothing unusual, but when Hira entered the room that first night, she felt it. Air too still, too thick. And the old man was wide awake, eyes fixed on the ceiling. "Do you hear it?" he whispered. Hira paused. "Hear what?" He didn't look at her. "The man in the vent. He talks to me when the lights go off." The hospital at night was a world of low hums and distant beeps, a rhythm that soothed Hira. She moved from room to room with her chart, her shoes barely whispering across the floor. But in 313, everything was wrong. The lights buzzed like flies. The air vent above the bed hissed quietly, sometimes rattling like metal fingers, scratching. Mr. Khurshid wouldn't sleep. Every few minutes he'd glance at the ceiling, eyes glassy. "Has anyone checked the vent?" Hira asked her colleague, Rafe, at the nurse's desk. He shrugged. "That room's weird. Maintenance says there's no airflow problem." "Why?" She hesitated. "He says there's someone talking in there," Rafe chuckled. "Then tell him to ask for a psychiatrist consult." She tried to laugh along, but when she brought his next dose, the patient whispered, "He doesn't like you." He says your name wrong. Hira froze. Who? The old man smiled faintly. The one in the vent. At 2 a.m. during rounds, Hira passed by 313 again. The door was slightly open. She peeked inside. The lights were off. Mr. Khurshid lay still, staring upward. The vent above him was open now, cover hanging by one screw. She felt a breeze against her neck. Not cold, warm. Hira stepped closer, reaching for the light switch. Then she heard it, a faint whisper coming from the dark square above. Turn it off. He'll wake up. Her heart lurched. Who's there? No answer. Just a soft creak of metal, like something crawling. She backed toward the hall, then froze when she saw the old man's lips moving silently. He was repeating something. She leaned in, barely catching the words. He's behind you. Hira spun. Nothing, only the vent grill. Trembling, she called maintenance again. The man who came, gray uniform, flashlight in hand, muttered, "These ducts are old. Rats, maybe." He climbed onto the chair, shining his light into the vent. See? Nothing here. Then he frowned. Wait, what the hell? Hira took a step closer. The beam of his light caught something inside. A piece of fabric, dark and shriveled. He reached in, pulling it free. A scrap of hospital gown. Dried black stains. The maintenance man cursed softly. I'll report this. That night, the vent cover was reattached. But when Hira came in for her next shift, room 313 was empty. Mr. Khurshid had gone into cardiac arrest an hour before dawn. Found with his mouth open, eyes wide, and his fingernails torn. The doctor called it stress-induced heart failure. But Hira saw the ceiling above his bed. The vent cover twisted. The screws pulled from inside. 2 days later, another patient was moved into 313. A young woman recovering from surgery. By midnight, she rang the call bell, trembling. Nurse, someone's whispering through the vent. Keep saying, he's still hungry. Hira didn't respond. She just stared at the ceiling, remembering the old man's words. When she looked closer at the vent cover, she noticed something new. Small, dark streaks across the edge. Burned fingerprints. She filed a report, quietly requesting the room be closed again. But the head nurse only sighed. Hira, every ward has its stories. Patients hallucinate. Staff get tired. Don't add to the drama. So now, every night Hira passes room 313 during her rounds. She never looks inside. But sometimes, when the corridor is silent, she hears it again. Turn it off. He'll wake up, and the vent cover rattles just once, like something breathing behind the metal. There's a sound every night nurse knows too well. That ping, soft but sharp, from a patient's call button. It's supposed to mean help me. But in Ward C, one button had been disconnected months ago. It belonged to bed 7. A bed that had been empty since its patient, Amna Begum, passed away at 3:12 a.m., 3 weeks earlier. Heart failure. Peaceful death, they said. Except that night, the call button for bed 7 lit up. Nurse Sadia, working the graveyard shift, frowned at the monitor. Bed 7. That can't be right. The other nurse, Nimra, glanced up from her notes. Maybe wiring glitch again? Sadia stood, the sound echoing faintly down the hall. A slow, rhythmic ping, ping, ping. It was the same tone that used to echo through the ward when Amna Begum was alive. And she always pressed it 3 times. Exactly 3. Ward C was half lit, shadows spilling from the corners. Machines hummed softly, monitors blinking like restless eyes. Sadia walked toward bed 7, her shoes whispering on the tiles. The bed was stripped, mattress folded, IV stand leaning to one side. Still, the small red bulb above the bed glowed. The call button on the wall, dusty, yellowed, blinked in steady rhythm. She touched it. Cold. Then it stopped. When she returned to the nurse's desk, Nimra smirked. See? Loose circuit, Sadia nodded, but couldn't shake the tight feeling in her chest. At 3:12 a.m., exactly the time, Amna Begum had died. The call light flickered again. Ping, pause, ping, pause, ping. Sadia stared at the monitor until the sound faded. No other patient stirred. The hallway felt too still. Amna, she whispered to herself. Please, rest. The next night, the same thing happened. Same time, same rhythm. This time, when Sadia went to check, the button wasn't blinking. But the bed, the folded mattress, had shifted slightly. as though someone had sat there. She leaned down, touching the sheet. Still warm, she checked the maintenance log. Bed 7 had been disconnected from the system completely. The nurse in charge of that paperwork was Nimra. Did you actually remove the connection? Sadia asked quietly. Of course I did, Nimra replied. You think I'd forget something like that? Sadia stared. Then why does it keep ringing? Nimra shrugged. Maybe you're hearing things. But that night, Nimra heard it too. 3 soft pings, from the empty bed, through the quiet ward. She turned pale. Okay, that's not funny. They both went to check, flashlights trembling. The call button light was glowing again. Sadia unplugged it completely from the power strip. The light stayed on. At 3:12 a.m. the following night, Sadia sat at the nurse's desk, determined to record whatever was happening. She placed her phone camera toward the empty bed, waiting. The ward clock ticked softly. The patient slept. Then, ping. The red light flickered on. Sadia leaned forward, heart pounding. No sound except that faint electric hum. Then, the folded mattress slowly unfurled. Just slightly, like pressure shifting over it. She stared, frozen, and faintly. Through the old intercom linked to the nurse station came a whisper. It still hurts. My chest. Sadia bolted upright. The call button light blinked rapidly, as if pressed again and again. Help me, the voice said again, weaker this time. Nimra rushed in from the next ward. Who are you talking to? Sadia pointed, trembling. The intercom! She's talking! But the sound was gone. The light faded. The ward returned to silence. The next morning, the supervisor reviewed the CCTV footage. No lights flickering. No one entering Ward C. Just Sadia and Nimra staring at an empty bed. But Sadia checked her phone. The recording she'd made was still there. Except now it was just static. And faintly, beneath the noise, a voice whispered, You stopped coming when I pressed it. Sadia froze. That's what Amna Begum had said on her last night alive, before her heart monitor flatlined. The hospital replaced the bed and rewired the panel. Ward C, bed 7, reassigned. The new patient pressed the call button once that night. The nurses came immediately. No one wanted to risk ignoring it, but at 3:12 a.m., another red light blinked from the empty hallway outside the ward. And over the intercom came the faintest voice, raspy, distant. I remember who didn't come. Sadia hasn't worked night shifts since. But every so often, when she passes a ward late in the evening, she still hears that pattern. Ping, pause, ping, pause, ping, always 3 times. There's a hallway in every hospital that no one likes walking alone. For Civil Ward, it was the old East Wing, long, narrow, and lined with outdated rooms used mostly for storage. Nurse Amina had to walk that corridor every night. Her job was to check vitals for the last 2 rooms at the end, 214 and 216. She didn't mind at first. Until one night she heard the shuffle. Not footsteps exactly, just the faint drag of rubber soles on tile. Steady, measured, and slow. When she turned around, the corridor was empty, but the motion sensor light halfway down flicked on and stayed on. Who's there? She called softly, no reply. Only the soft hum of the fluorescent lights. And then the faint beep of a heart monitor that made her freeze. Because the power to that entire section had been cut weeks ago. The East Wing had been closed after the hospital expanded. Now it stored broken wheelchairs, old monitors, and unused IV poles, all covered with sheets that hung like ghosts. But Amina's duty list still required nightly checks on 214 and 216, where backup generators powered a few old monitors left behind. At first, the faint beep in the silence comforted her. It reminded her of life until she noticed the pattern. One monitor always beeped a single tone, flatline, and then paused for exactly 8 seconds before repeating. Like a metronome marking death, she told her colleague Fawad about it. You sure it's not a malfunction? He asked. Maybe, she said, but why does it stop when I enter the hallway? He raised an eyebrow. You're scaring yourself. Probably motion triggered. That night, the beeping didn't stop when she walked in. It sped up. The next few nights blurred together. Every time she approached the East Wing, she heard that sound. Sometimes slow, sometimes fast, always following her steps. One night, she brought her small flashlight. The corridor stretched endlessly in white and gray. The sensor light flicked on one by one as she walked, revealing the empty stretch ahead. Halfway through, she froze. The monitor in room 214 was on, glowing faint green, though the plug dangled loose from the wall. Amina stepped inside. The air was thick, heavy with disinfectant and old dust. The ECG monitor flatlined steadily, showing a name on screen. Patient, unknown. Who turned this on? She whispered, then came the whisper. Faint, ragged. You did. Don't stop watching. The ECG line jumped, just once, like a heartbeat. Amina ran out, breath shaking. A few nights later, the head nurse insisted she continue rounds. We can't show fear of empty rooms, she said. So Amina went again, alone. The corridor felt colder that night. The first sensor light failed to switch on, leaving a shadowed path. She forced herself forward, flashlight trembling in her grip. Beep, beep, beep. The sound came again, faster now. Room 214, she stepped in, and the ECG display flickered, showing jagged waves. Then a voice, crackling through the machine's speaker. Monitor. Hallway, always watching. The lights above her buzzed violently, then cut out. In that momentary darkness, she saw a figure standing in the doorway. White gown, face pale, eyes covered with a blood pressure cuff. Amina screamed, slamming into the wall, flashlight clattering to the floor. When she scrambled up, the room was empty. Only the monitor pulsing faintly, its last word frozen on screen. Error. Patient still connected. Amina refused to work the East Wing after that. Fawad covered her rounds for 2 nights. On the third, he didn't come back. Security found him slumped in room 214 at dawn, unconscious but alive. He kept mumbling the same thing. She told me to keep watching. Said the line can't go flat. They transferred him to psychiatric care. Amina quit a week later. Before leaving, she walked one last time past the east corridor. The sensor lights flickered faintly. Ping, 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 and from the far end, a monitor beeped once, long and clear. For the first time, she realized something chilling. The sound didn't come from inside the room. It came from above, from the hallway itself. Hospitals aren't supposed to have mirrors facing patient beds. It's against policy in many wards. But Ward B still had one. An old, wide mirror above the hand wash counter, cracked faintly across one corner. Nurse Sahar never liked it. At night, when the lights dimmed and the monitors hummed, she'd see shapes move in it that didn't match the room. One shift, near 3 a.m., she leaned over to wash her hands. The mirror was fogged, though the water hadn't run yet. In the fog, someone had drawn 3 words. Don't turn around. Sahar's breath caught. The ward was silent, all patients asleep. She wiped the mirror clean. Nothing there. Then she turned around. Just a reflex, and every monitor in the room flatlined at once. Ward B was meant for long-term patients, most in semi-conscious states. Nights were monotonous, hourly vitals, adjusting drips, logging data. Sahar liked the calm. But after that night, something in the atmosphere changed. Thicker air, heavier silences. She told Arif, the night orderly. Sahar, someone's messing around with the mirror. Arif, it's condensation. Happens all the time. Sahar, then why does it spell words? Arif, you sure it wasn't already there? The next night, she checked the glass before her shift. Clean. At 2:54 a.m., she saw it again. New writing, crooked and uneven. He can see you. She grabbed a cloth, wiped it away, and pressed her palm to the glass, warm. Behind her, one of the comatose patients, room 12, Mrs. Tanvir, started whispering, though she hadn't spoken in weeks. Mirror. Move it away. Sahar reported it. Maintenance promised to replace the mirror soon. They never did. Each night new messages appeared, sometimes letters backwards, like written from the other side. He waits when you're alone. Stop watching us. Sahar began covering the mirror with a towel. But by midnight it would be gone. Folded neatly on the counter, once, she found the reflection showing one extra bed in the background, an empty bed that didn't exist in the room. She brought her phone, filmed the mirror for a full minute. When she replayed it, the reflection lagged half a second behind her movements. and at 2:56 a.m., a hand pressed against the glass from the inside. No face, just the hand. She showed the clip to Arif. He watched quietly, then said, "Delete it. Don't keep proof." That's how it starts. 2 nights later, during the power outage, emergency lights flickered red across the ward. Sahar entered to check oxygen lines. In the dim light, the mirror gleamed too bright, like it had its own glow. She saw herself in it, tired eyes, trembling lips, but behind her reflection stood someone else, wearing an old nurse uniform, the logo from a hospital that had shut down years ago. "Who are you?" Sahar whispered. The reflection didn't speak. It just pointed, directly at Mrs. Tanvir's bed. Sahar turned. The old woman's eyes were open for the first time in weeks. She mouthed a single word. "Run." The mirror cracked, not shattered, but one thin line crawled across the glass, splitting her reflection's face in two. Then, from behind the mirror, came a hollow thud. Like knuckles tapping, slow, deliberate. When daylight came, the crack had widened into a spiderweb pattern. Maintenance finally removed it. Behind it, they found the wall rotted through, an old cavity where electrical wiring once ran. Inside, wedged between insulation sheets, was a photo, black and white, dated 1998. A group of nurses smiling in Ward B. In the middle stood a woman who looked exactly like Sahar's reflection from the night before. On the back of the photo, someone had written, "Keep watch. They forget us when they sleep." The mirror was discarded. Ward B got a new coat of paint. Still, every night around 3 a.m., the hand wash counter fogs up again, even without hot water. And sometimes, when Sahar walks past on day shift, she swears she hears faint tapping behind the new tiles. Tap, 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 3 times. Always 3. The pager shouldn't have worked anymore. They'd switched to smartphones months ago, but Nurse Farah still kept hers clipped to her scrubs out of habit. A small black rectangle with a cracked screen, a relic of the old system. One night, during her 2 a.m. rounds, it buzzed. She froze. No one else on staff had a functioning pager. She looked down, faint green text flickering across the broken screen. "Room 9, help me." She blinked. Room 9 was empty. Had been for almost a year, ever since a fire shorted the electrical system in that section. The message buzzed again, the same words repeating. "Room 9, help me," Farah whispered. "This can't be real." But the pager vibrated harder, and when she turned toward the corridor, the lights in that direction flickered on, one by one, leading straight toward Room 9. Farah had been a night nurse for 8 years. Nothing surprised her anymore, until that night. She walked slowly down the dark corridor, trying to calm her breath. Room 9's door was marked closed for maintenance. She reached for the handle. Cold metal. The pager buzzed again, glowing faintly green. "Please hurry." She pushed the door open. Inside, dust, broken monitors, faint scent of smoke. No power, but in the corner, a single hospital bed stood upright. On it lay an old yellowed chart with a name, Saima Aftab, Room 9, cardiac arrest. She turned the page. The date of death, exactly 1 year ago. Behind her, the door creaked shut. Conflict development, 1,000 words condensed. The next morning, Farah mentioned it to Dr. Walid, the on-call physician. "Farah, someone's pager is sending messages. Could it be a system glitch?" Dr. Walid, "Pagers were disabled months ago. Even if one worked, no line connects to that ward." Farah, "Then how did I get this?" She showed him, but the screen was blank. "Battery dead," he frowned. "Probably residual static. Get some sleep." But that night the pager came alive again. 3:12 a.m. "She's cold." Farah felt her throat tighten. "Who?" No answer. The hallway outside flickered again. The lights formed a straight path to Room 9. She walked in whispering, "Saima?" For a moment the air felt heavy, a mix of antiseptic and burnt plastic. Then the monitor on the wall blinked once, showing a flat line. "Pager, you left me." Farah dropped it. "I wasn't here that night," she whispered. But she had been. On duty, the night of the fire. She remembered the alarms, the smoke, the chaos, and how Room 9 had been locked from inside. The pager didn't stop that week. It buzzed during handovers while she walked the halls, Even inside the staff restroom, always the same voice through green letters. You left me. Don't forget. I waited. She begged it to take it apart. The technician opened it, puzzled. There's no SIM, no chip, no battery left in this thing. That night, she locked it in her locker and went on rounds without it. At 3:12 a.m., the sound came again from her pocket. She pulled it out. The pager, still vibrating. Screen flashing. Room 9. She ran. Inside the dark room, the air was freezing. Her breath fogged as she turned on her flashlight. The bed was empty, but the sheets were pressed down, like someone had just gotten up. The monitor flickered again. For 1 second, she saw a reflection on the dark screen. A woman in a patient gown, half her face burned, eyes open, staring directly at her. Then, nothing. The pager buzzed once more. One final line. Thank you for coming. When Farah reported the event, security found nothing. Room 9 remained sealed. 2 days later, during cleaning, the new staff found a pager under the burned bed. Different model, older. The sticker on the back read, "Assigned to Nurse Farah, Ward B." But Farah had never lost hers. It was still clipped to her scrubs. The old pager was dead, screen black. Yet when they tried to throw it away, it buzzed once in the trash bag. The cleaner jumped. "It just said something," she stammered. "What?" "It said," she answered. No one kept pagers anymore after that. But late at night, some nurses say they still hear faint buzzing, especially near the old maintenance door, always around 3:12 a.m. And sometimes, if you listen closely, it sounds less like a pager and more like a heartbeat. Every night at 3:30 a.m., someone cried in Ward C, the closed pediatric wing. Everyone on night shift heard it, soft, hiccuping sobs echoing through the empty hall. At first, they thought it was a cat, then a faulty air vent. But Nurse Ikra knew the sound of a child's cry. She'd worked in pediatrics for years. The crying began the week they converted Ward C into storage after the outbreak. No patients, no lights, no reason for sound. Security guards refused to go in. The sound came from the farthest room, the one with faded cartoon murals of smiling suns and balloons. One night, when the crying wouldn't stop, Ikra finally said, "If it's real, I'll go see. If it's not, I'll make sure it stops." She took her flashlight, key card, and stepped into Ward C by 3:37 a.m. The crying had stopped. By 3:40, her flashlight had too. Introduction, 800 words. Ward C had always been too quiet. Ikra remembered when it was full of children. Laughter, cartoons, and the smell of antiseptic mixed with crayons. Then came the viral outbreak. 3 patients died in 1 week. The ward shut down permanently. Now it was used to store old monitors and broken cribs. That night, Ikra's shift was light. Only 2 patients in recovery, 1 in observation. She could hear everything. The hum of the vending machine, the flicker of the hallway lights. Then, right on cue, soft crying. It wasn't wind. It wasn't pipes. It was rhythmic, human. She radioed security. "Hassan, do you hear that?" Not again. "Don't go in there, Ikra." Last guy swore he saw shadows moving. "Probably dust," she said. But her voice didn't sound convinced. She walked toward Ward C anyway. Conflict development. 900 words. The door creaked open with a low metallic sound. Her flashlight beam swept across old equipment. Wheelchairs, IV poles, a deflated balloon with "Get well soon." Barely readable. The crying stopped. "Hello?" She called softly. No answer. She stepped inside, shoes squeaking against the linoleum. Something about the air felt heavy, humid. The scent of bleach long gone stale. Then she noticed the last room at the end had its lights on. A faint flickering bulb. She approached slowly. The door plate was still there. Room 304, pediatrics isolation. She pushed the door open. Inside, a single hospital crib sat in the center. No baby. Just a small blanket folded neatly on top. Her flashlight flickered. From the corner, she heard it, a sharp inhale. Then a soft single sob. "Who's there?" she whispered. Her light caught something on the wall. A name written in crayon, faded and uneven. "Ayan, age 5. The crying grew louder. Climax, 800 words. Ikra backed toward the door, her heart hammering. Her radio hissed to life. Static, then a voice. "Ikra, you shouldn't be in there." It wasn't Hassan's voice. It was small, weak, childlike. She froze. Ayan? She whispered. No reply, just faint breathing over the static. She turned toward the crib again. The blanket was gone, then her flashlight cut out completely. Darkness. The radio buzzed once more, the same weak voice. Cold. Please don't leave again. Her eyes watered. I'm sorry, she whispered. We tried to save you. We did. For a long moment there was only silence. Then, the faintest sound of a giggle. Not cruel, not eerie, just soft. The kind of laugh a child makes when they finally fall asleep. And then, nothing. Resolution. 600 words. When morning came, Ikra didn't mention it to anyone. She simply filed her report and went home, exhausted. But that night, the hospital's maintenance team entered Ward C to clear it for renovation. They found the old crib still standing, and on its mattress, a hand-drawn picture in faded crayon. A nurse with long hair holding a child's hand under a sun. In the corner, in small letters, was written, "Thank you for staying." They showed it to Ikra the next day. Her face went pale. I cleaned that room myself after the outbreak, she said quietly. That wall was blank. That drawing wasn't there. She requested a transfer the same week. Now new staff report that the crying stopped, mostly. Except on rainy nights around 3:30 a.m. When it does return, it's no longer a sob. Just a soft, sleepy voice whispering to the dark, "Good night, Nurse Ikra."